you just want to always speak to like the beginner mind. Just you want to call out the things that they're thinking about that they don't say, like, and that's really easy to do because you already know that. So you just kind of talking to yourself as a beginner. That's the easiest thing to do. You just like, what is the advice I wish I had when I first got started? That's all.
So real quick, so I had a few questions for this, like today's meeting,
Yeah.
mainly to like understand the right, like a proper process into when we're doing this lead gen, right? So what do you have as your, like, let's say your initial steps, right? So you start off with running the campaign, right? So after you run the campaign, and when I say run the campaign, I mean run the campaign, ad set, ads. We got that part.
Yes.
You launch the first campaign. When do you go and you know create a lookalike, or when do you try to retarget? You know,
Yeah.
like when
It
do
all
you
depends
start
on what
trying
I'm
to
trying to do.
optimize?
Yeah, it all depends on what I'm trying to do. So, I guess if you can, share with me a little bit more clearly, like what the objective is. So you just like running ads for, like, what are you trying to do?
So let's say for we'll use Brian as an example, right? Let's say I'm trying to get Brian ads or leads, right? The
Okay.
same thing. Let's
Yeah.
say it's IULs or whatever,
Yes.
right? When after the initial campaign goes live, when would you start trying to optimize that? Or yeah, when would you start trying to optimize it?
Yeah. So it's two ways to look at it. If the cost per lead is too high,
Mhm.
right, then it's the first thing I want to do is I want to see if the ad is good. So I want to look at, let me see. Let's see if I'm trying to explain this without getting too nerdy, but I'm gonna have to. So,
Yeah, you can get as
so
nerdy as you need to, bro.
the way it works is it's clicks.
Mhm.
Then it's clicks. Then it's click through rate. Then it's cost per click. Right. Then
Mhm.
it's cost per lead. No, sorry, number of leads. Shit, let me erase that. Number of leads.
Mhm.
Then it's cost per lead. Right. And like all of these are not individual, they're all connected.
Right.
Click affects the CTR, which then affects the CPC. And there's one more that I forgot to put in here, which is the CPM, which is the cost per 1,000. Right. CPM that affects all of these, which then affects the number of leads you get, which then affects the cost per lead. So it all depends on which one is out of KPI, right? So if the cost per lead is really high, right, then I always want to start and work my way back this way, whatever it is.
Gotcha.
So it's like, all right, how many leads I'm getting? All right, what's the cost per click? What's the click percentage? And then it's like, how many people are clicking on it? So then I want to like look here and I'm like, okay, let's try the headline, thumbnail, right? Then the audience, right? And then you want to look at, if it's a video, the views, right? And if it's all of this stuff, this is all things that you can do inside the system, right? So all of this stuff is inside the system. This is the thing that's outside the system, which is the actual ad itself, right? So
Mhm.
then it's like, okay, well, then maybe it's the ad. If it's anything else, right, you want to try to change this because the ad may be good. It just may be a funky audience that is going through, right?
Mhm.
If they're not clicking on it, then it may be the headline. And sometimes the video may be good, but the thumbnail for the video that they pre-prescribed for the video may just be on words or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know that's very nerdy, but that's just the way you want to look at it. They all influence each other. And so you just want to work your way backwards, like the cost per lead, right? So let's just say it was $30.
Yeah,
Then
no,
it's like,
I rather you break it down like this because I understand this. You know what I
okay,
mean?
cool.
Uh,
Gotcha. So if it's $30, then the first thing I'm thinking is like, all right, well, are people clicking on it? If they're clicking
Mhm.
on it, then they're watching it. Then it's like, why aren't they taking the action? And I'm
Yep.
like, the CPM may be too high. And it's like, okay, well, then maybe the audience isn't vibing with the ad. You see what I'm saying? I'm like getting these
Mhm.
heuristics, like, okay. I'm like, well, if I change the headline, that'll get them to click. And then if they're watching it, but they're not taking the action, then it may be the video. But if they're clicking and the cost per click is high, then maybe it's the thumbnail, right? And then if they're watching it and they're not taking the action, I change the audience and that doesn't work, then maybe I need to create another angle that's just like this one. It just got a different hook.
Right.
And so I optimize that. So you want to make sure you get this part right before you try to do anything else with like lookalikes and stuff like this, right? Because you want to have like, you always want to be doing something scientific like this, right? And it can either be this way or it could be this way. Sorry.
Mhm.
It could be this way. That's how you want to look at everything. Is you don't want to have this and change two things, because then you're like all messed up. You see what I'm saying? You want to stay away from this.
Right.
And that's how you can scale your ads and optimizing. And it's like but once you start doing it, like the video, as long as the video is good, it's usually just a couple things: the headline, the thumbnail, or the audience. Right? You want to try to make sure you always have a tower of Babel, which is you want to always just have like one winning audience that you know is just like a winning one, right? Whatever that is. If it's money, life insurance, investments, whatever it is, you want to have a winning audience that you know whatever you run to, like it'll just work, right? And then you can build derivatives off of that. And then you want to have one banger, which is like an ad that just always works, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then this, I think, is there something else? Clicks, right? And then like a proven headline that just always work, right? And then you just kind of mix and match those based off what you know. It's like, all right, let me try this one over here. Let me switch this. But some combination of these three is your trifecta that you want to try to keep in combination, because all this is doing is it's like a scientific method. Like it starts with like one cell and then it propagates into two like this, right? And then it's like 4, right? So if this thing wins, then if you can make a spawn of this winning ad over here and just make it just a little bit different, right? Like the chances are, if it's a winning, if it's the video, you can keep everything the same, make one little tweak to the ad, and it should start to kick in and deliver. And then sometimes things just fatigue. You got to turn it off, run something else, and you come back and turn it on or duplicate it, and then it'll take off again. Sometimes the audience fatigue, and that's where if your CPM is high, that means that your frequency, it might be getting shown to the same people too much. So anything over like 3% is like they got banner blindness. Like they seen it, but they ain't seeing it. It's like the emails that you get. You don't even open them, or shit come in the mail, right? It just go right in the trash. You don't even look at it. That's what's happening with the frequency. And so you just have to trust your scientific gut and like, all right, it's not working. That's cool, right? And not get emotional. It's like, okay, what actually isn't working though? Right? That's the first thing you want. Is like, okay, something's broken in here. What is it? You know, you open the hood of the car, it's making some kind of sound. It's kind of clunking. It's like, okay, well, it's coming from over here. Looks like it's the alternator or the motor, whatever it is. And you just kind of like dissect that piece. That doesn't mean like, oh, we need to get a brand new car, like throw the whole car out. It's like, all right, I need to fix this part right here. And you just want to isolate like one of the metrics that's out of, and so what you do is like, when you look at the dashboard, the first thing you want to do is you want to try to isolate the KPI that's completely out of whack. Because chances are, if you can fix this one, since they're all connected, a lot of those other ones will kind of go down.
Yep.
Right. And then you want to make sure that you're not looking in time frames of just one day. You never want to just look in one day. You always, and the minimum, unless it's just like insane, 48 hours. And then to get the best judgment is 4 days, because you've got a true time frame of it being out of KPI, getting in KPI. And sometimes it'll be out of KPI in the first 48 hours, and then it'll just take off. So you also want to give it time to actually like do its thing, because, you know, Facebook is an algorithm. So that little eye right, is like there's clusters of people, right? It's prospecting. And so it's running around trying to like find a cluster of people. So it's trying to find one person. And if that person clicks on it, then guess what? It starts the natural selection process. 1, 2, 4. There's one person that clicked on it. What in our database is 2 people that are similar to this person and then this. And so sometimes it doesn't figure it out right away, which is why you want to make sure you have a couple things in your back pocket to where you know one of those variables is always going to hit. Right, which is like a winning ad or the video. And so you always want to start with the baseline. You never want to like try all brand new stuff because you want to get some baseline to have some normalcy in regards to your stuff. And then sometimes if it isn't working at all, you can you just need to rebuild it, like just like build it from scratch. Like don't duplicate it, like just completely just delete the entire thing and just build it all from scratch. And I don't know why, but sometimes that just works too, especially if you have these things over here. And so you just trust that you already know what's always going to work. Facebook is, so what you're doing with Facebook is Facebook already knows the people, right? And they know, who they are. They just don't know what to show them, right? And what action for them to take. And so you can kind of guide them. All right, show them this, and who exactly I want to show them is with the audience. They already know the people, and then they just like, oh, okay, I'm just going to prospect through my database on people that are similar to this audience. Because what Facebook is doing is, like I told y'all before about the way Facebook, about the way we're clustered now. So before we used to be clustered by the neighborhoods that we live in, right? But now we're clustered by our interest. So Facebook knows what your interests are because everybody puts their interests on their account. Or once you click on something 300 times, they already know what your heuristics is. So Facebook is generally clustering people and trying to find other people that are interested in that same type of deal. Right. So me and Brian may be in different industries specifically because he's on the insurance side and I'm on the coaching side, but we may see the same ads that are targeted by life insurance or insurance. Right. Is that making sense?
Yep.
Right. Cool.
100%.
And then with scaling. So the next thing with scaling is you want to try to take the ad as high as you can until it breaks. Right. Before you try anything else. Right. So if it's doing great at 100, you want to see if you can get it, let's just say to 1,000. Right. Ideally, this is just examples, right? And see how far to go before it gets out of KPI. And then you want to work your way back to figure out what that threshold is. So you know the sweet spot, which is generally about 300, 350. And right, well, like it's still like 10, 15, 20 bucks where you can spend. Because then right, then you just you can duplicate it and get the same similar results where you can just stack audiences, where you can go ABO and you can do 300, 325, whatever it is. You know that you can, because then you can predictably know the cluster of leads amounts that you can get. Right. You always want, and then the audiences, like the lookalike things, you never want to lean on those things just from the iOS 14, that like that's the last ditch effort is like your home run. Because once the iOS 14 kicked in, it now stopped you from being able to track people who did not want to be tracked, or track them cross platforms like we used to be. So it's not as proven it is. It still works, but it don't work as well as it used to work back in 2015. But what does work still is the audience interest always going to work because they got more data and people just keep uploading photos and liking more stuff. So they're getting more of that. And these are some of the controllable variables that you can always control. That's just like the basics A plus B equals C type scenario. So that's with scaling. And then with audiences, lookalike audience, the best lookalike audience, the first one is going to be page engagement. That's where you're going to have the most. Right. And so you think about it like the steps towards you. Somebody clicked. Right. So that means that there's more people that's probably going to click or engage out here with your page engagement. Right. Then if they watch the video, right, then it's probably going to be like video views, right? Then the next thing is they clicked on the form, but they didn't fill it out. Then it's people that actually filled out the form, right? And then there's customers, right? And so this one's probably going to have the most of first, and then this one's probably going to yield the highest probability of replicating results from a lookalike 1%.
Right.
Okay. I'm trying to think. I know I'm just kind of running off. I'm trying to just give y'all all the game I got from scaling. And then, yeah, I mean, I think that right there can get you to spending $1,000 a day with like so many different fractions of scale from right there.
Mm-hmm. So with that last example, right, when you're talking about
page,
like video page,
views, clicked form filled out, and then customer.
Right.
Yes.
So for let's say we're doing something like that, but someone has to leave the platform to fill out a form, right? So they go on a landing page.
Yes.
They have to fill out a form there, but the video's hitting, right? Video's hitting, hella views. The second they go to the landing page, nothing's happening. So then that's when you tweak the landing page.
Correct. Yeah. So with the landing page, depending on what it is, the headline is going to be the most important thing there, right? So let me just clear this. All right. So got the landing page, got the copy here, got some type of image, and then you got this little box for them to take action. Boom, bam, right? Maybe a button here. Okay. Like this is probably going to be the most important thing. They're going to check this out, and then it gives them an action to take. A lot of times you just need to change this. And what happens is the person is either going towards pleasure or away from pleasure towards pain. And so if it's a cold audience, the best thing to try to do is get them to move away from pain and towards pleasure. No, I think I said that backwards. Yeah, you want to make away from pleasure and towards pain, away from pain and towards pleasure, which is the 7 biggest mistakes that keep most people from creating generational wealth, as opposed to 7 steps to generational wealth, right? You want to tell them what to avoid so you can share your expertise. Because when you don't know somebody and it's cold and you tell them 7 ways to get rich, guess what the first thing? You full of shit and it sounds like a scam. So you want to give them tips to avoid. This is the whole National Enquirer type scenario, right? And so that's what you want to do and change the headline. So if they're clicking on the videos, and let's just say you got it's in KPI, but then when they come to the landing page, right, like it's 5%, right, or anything less than, I can't remember what less than is, but less than 20%, right? Then it has something to do with the landing page. Anything over 20%, you're just wasting time incrementally trying to figure this out, because that's just about the numbers, right?
Right.
However, the most important metric that you always want to try to focus on is CPA, right? And what you want with CPA is a minimum of 120%, so that you can just, like, that's just saying that you're going to stay alive, right? But 3 to 5x is a good spot to be in. You kind of run it. Because the reason why this doesn't sound sexy, but it's working, is this is a client finance business where you can grow your business based off the cash flow of existing clients. And so you just really got to focus on getting a CPA. And the way that you can get this down is you just get better at sales, or you get better at the marketing part. You see what I'm saying? Like, you got to take a step back and look at this from a whole. That's why you got to look at, like, all right, what's the thing that's really out of KPI? See what I'm saying?
Right. Yep.
So that's a good question about the landing page. Does that all make sense? I know my drawing is terrible, but you get
no, that makes sense. One sec. I'm gonna just.
Yeah,
I know you record it, but I also add these into my notes.
Yeah, I think Brian got it on his he got his thing in there, so yeah, he can share the link with y'all when it's done. I think his little bot is on here.
No, that's yours. The note taker.
Yeah, I thought I let yours in. Yours in here. Should be.
Yeah, it's in there. Brian's auger.
Yeah. So you got this. You can just share the link with you when you're done for sure. But yeah, man. You got any other questions? I love talking about this stuff. This is my jam right here. I don't get to talk too much about this with insurance agents.
Hey, this is what I want to know about.
I mean, what about some of the stuff with digital? You know what I mean? Maybe ask some things about that. We need to figure this out and get this thing rolling.
Yeah, so this part right here, I mean, helped right here a lot.
Yeah.
Because now we know when we start running any ads for us on our end where they're going to be going, they might end up going to a landing page or anything like that. I can see here. And then for any of our clients right now that are doing landing pages, here I can see where they need to tweak.
Yeah. So let me tell you about that too while we're doing it. So keep your funnel simple, and you want to think of your funnel as a system. You definitely want to, I'm just write this down. So we got landing page, got your value video, you got your schedule page and your thank you page. Maybe another page in here if you get fancy with it, but value video, strategy session page, and then thank you page, right? Like this thing always works. This is never not going to work. There's a couple of things that you can change in here that this is the only things I would try to tweak. You want to tweak things basically on the outside. You don't want to mess with the system, which is you can tweak the headline, you can tweak the ads, right, to influence this, and you can tweak the video, right? Like anything else is just wasting time because this thing just cranks out with anything I'm doing. Like I'm doing some more digital marketing stuff where I'm actually there coaching coaches like I'm doing now, talking about this stuff. And it's like, man, this thing continues to crush. It's either your video, your landing page, or your ad, right? And you just have to isolate it, just like I showed you with the ads. Okay, which thing is out of KPI? So for your landing page, right, about 20% is good. Don't stress if it's like 15%, right? If the CPA is good and it's 10%, I still wouldn't worry about that. Cost per lead is irrelevant if the cost per lead is high, but this is low. And what I mean low by like the cost to acquire a customer, let's say if you got a $5,000 product, right? Anything that's between 500 and 2,000 bucks, right? To 2K, you're good because you can see the profitability on that, right? Just like 2.2x. Okay. So again, like I said, like you're still good. So then I wouldn't worry about this. The thing is how can you get this lower? Right? If your cost per booked call is anything above, let's say 300, that means that your video stinks. Right? And then if your landing page is converting and your CPA is there, that sometimes you need to create a different angle, right? Sometimes it's the headline, and sometimes you're like, man, well, let me throw another ad at this angle. Right. So that's why you don't want to change the landing page and change the ads, right? Or change the landing page and change the video, because you want to say, okay, well, this got it down a little bit because I changed the landing page. But what if I created an angle for the ad that's similar to the landing page that was more congruent? Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how you want to look at things, like in a synergistic way. Everything is connected.
Yeah, it's all got to flow together.
Yeah, for sure. And so you always just isolate which is out of KPI. Isolate first. Is that helpful?
Yep.
For sure. Good stuff. Anybody else got any questions?
Yeah. So everything you're saying now with the cost per clicks and all that, how everything kind of is tied in together.
Yeah.
Is that in industry wide thing for any ad you're running for whatever company in any industry?
Yeah, because that's a principle, right? Mm-hmm. That's what the thing is like that's a principle to how to generate and look at anything from first principles. So when you start training yourself to look at things like that, like you just want to apply that principle to any industry or whatever you're doing. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
And that includes for even our own.
Yeah, I mean that's that. Like the thing about principles is they work whether you believe in them or not. Right? The same principle that allows a plane to fly is the same thing that can make your finances soar. Right? You need thrust, you need lift, you need speed. Right? Like the problem with businesses is the inflow. Like the bills are coming out faster than the inflow is coming in. It's the same thing. Right? You need that. So in saying that, like this is the principles of why this works. And this is what most people do not understand. They know the tactics, the strategies, they take the ads, but they don't know the essence of it. Right. So I said this before, this is super nerdy, but there's 4 levels of learning, and people only have the lowest level of learning, but they understand the tactics or the strategies. It's the what or the how, when. They don't understand the 3rd level, right? And the 3rd level is the principles, which is what I just said. Of like why it works. Because if it's a principle, the cool thing about principles is with physics, anything that works in physics is a microcosm of something else. So if you apply it, if it works over here, you apply it over here, it'll work. And that's what I was just sharing with him, is why I got nerdy with it, because the principles always are going to be the same. And you think through first principles, right? And then the highest level is essence, which is like the nature and the character of why it works. So the reason why it works is because people are easily able to be persuaded, right? Even if somebody doesn't want something intrinsically, you can create a gap to where you can create desires, basically what I'm saying. And then entrepreneurial world is really easy because we're always longing to go higher, go more. We need to do it faster. But everybody has a gap of where they want to be, no matter how perfect you are. So with that being said, that's the essence and the nature of things. So the only thing you need to do is figure out what that desire is and communicate to people that's a desire that they have, right? You want to share that. And what happens when you share with people that you know what their desires are, they intrinsically think that you have the solution to their problem, whether you do or not. Yep. And then in your video, you share with them what the problem is. We do, Brian will do this on his things, explaining to people insurance, why they need it, or what they need to go from working a 9 to 5 to becoming their own boss. They have a desire for more, a gap where they're stuck. You explain it to people, right? And sometimes your video isn't good and you need to readjust that. And so that's the essence and the nature of why it works.
Cool. What's up?
Yeah, baby.